Beds podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight. NBA Cup semifinals tonight. We
Feel
already
the
have
action.
one. We have one game in the books. Desmond Bain and the Orlando Magic take out the Miami Heat in game one, and currently in game two, I believe last time I looked at the score, the Knicks are up 17 on the Raptors, who are quickly fading and have lost, I believe, 5 out of their last six, and
Well,
looks
except
like
for the
they're on their
Cavs,
way
right?
to a loss tonight.
I'm guessing the Cavs was their
Except for
last
the
win.
Cavs. It could very well be. Let's just get them back on the schedule. If you're Toronto, you want the Cavs on your schedule so you can
Okay,
just
so
pile up
so
victories.
Mike, here's what I'm gonna do. I don't want to steal one of your questions, but let's just talk about this now. Let's just do this. So we're
Okay.
gonna
All right.
ask each other three questions. But the question that Mike posed to me was, do you care about the NBA Cup? And here's my answer. I don't care about the NBA Cup and winning. What I care about is that I know we went 2-2 in pool play, but as a result of the 2-2 in pool play, we get to play two crappy teams the next weekend, which should be automatic dubs, right? We play the Pacers again and we play the Wizards. So I'm going to take those two wins and not worry about who I'm playing because we're playing bad teams and those are two dubs. That's two theoretical dubs, right? It's the Wizards.
The schedule did work out. I think it's the Hornets, if I'm not mistaken. I think
Yeah,
it's the
you're right.
Hornets,
Wizards
but I'm
Hornets.
checking right
But
now as
yeah,
you're talking.
it's
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. It's Wizards
yeah.
Hornets. Yes.
Picking up both of those games is definitely a quality scheduling quirk in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Although we could not beat the lacrosse playing. By the way, did you know that Pat Spencer was a lacrosse star? Did
Yeah,
you
I
know
did.
that?
Yeah, I
Did you
did.
know that?
They talked.
I
They
had no
talked about.
idea. I had
They talked about it last year in the in I think the play-in games, right? Because the Warriors were in the play-in games last year. I feel like they were in the play-in games, or maybe it was the first round of the playoffs. They were talking about how Pat Spencer was a lacrosse player. I don't think I could tell you what college he played. He played lacrosse in college, right? He didn't even. Did he play
correct.
basketball in college?
Yes.
He didn't even play basketball in college,
No,
right?
he did not. 1 year he played 1 year at Northwestern after he exhausted his 4 years of eligibility as a basketball player.
Crazy. Anyways, yeah.
So
So
if the
so my
Cavs can't beat the Warriors with the lineup that the Warriors threw out there in the Cavs last game, I don't feel confident they're going to be beating up on the Wizards or the Hornets easily either. So that's a whole nother discussion. But
yeah.
anyway,
I'm going to be honest, Mike. I'm avoiding Cavs talk today. Unless you ask me a Cavs question, I'm not asking you a
okay,
Cavs question. I'm not asking you a Cavs question tonight.
okay, all right, it's fair.
All right. So we're going to ask
So
each
our
other.
questions are going to be
Oh, sorry.
answered with yes, no. You're good. Go ahead.
We're delayed again. I'm gonna ask. We're gonna ask questions to each other. They might be yes, no, or maybe answers. Or in some cases, they might be open ended. That might make you think a little bit. It might reflect current other situations going on in the world or sporting events. So, Mike, do you want to ask the first question, or do you want me to ask the first question?
I want you to ask me. I'm going to answer the first one. So you ask the
Okay,
first
here we go.
question.
All right, the Indianapolis Colts today, Mike, signed Philip Rivers, 44 years old. If you could pick one NBA player that has retired within the last 5 years to play again, think about this. So one player and be productive in the last 5 years. What NBA player would you choose?
Oh man, I got to pick somebody who's retired within the last 5 years.
And it could be for
Oh
whatever
man,
reason, Mike. It could
now
be for whatever. It could be for whatever reason.
no, I understand. I understand the question. I understand my task. I just have to. I'm going to have to search up a list of recently retired NBA players
Here while you're
because
doing that, let me tell you who my player. Can I tell you who my player would be?
sure, go for it.
Carmelo Anthony. There's no doubt. You know how much of a Hoodie Mello fan I was. Come on, it's Carmelo for sure. It's definitely Carmelo Anthony. I love Carmelo Anthony as a theoretical Carmelo Anthony player. just chuck up shots, hit those elbows, hit those clutch 2-pointers. Listen, the girls are. I'm playing. I when I play in practice with the girls, I'm like, guys, I'm dangerous from the Carmelo range. Just give me the ball from the elbow. Give me the ball from the wing extended. I'm gonna make this shot. Carmelo Anthony. And what's crazy is the girls even know who Carmelo Anthony is. These are 7th and 8th grade girls who don't typically follow basketball, but they know who Carmelo is. So Carmelo Anthony, that's my pick.
All right, so I'm trying to pull up my list, but as I'm sure you can tell, my internet is extremely slow, and so I am attempting to see what I can pull
Dwayne
from
Wade?
this.
Can I interest you in some Dwayne Wade?
All right. Maybe. Let me just go through. I'm looking through my list here. Now I finally have Furkan Korkmaz is a guy that I'm considering right now. My guy, I could go back to one of my favorite potential draft choices, Jared Culver. Could potentially choose some Jared Culver. All right. I don't have Dwayne Wade. I've got the list of. I guess this is retired in the last 4 years. This is from StatMuse, so maybe Wade retired 5 years ago.
I'll see if I can get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the case because I'm just looking at. Yeah, I'm looking at guys that
did
retired
Dwayne
in the
Wade
last
play in
5
the bubble,
years.
Mike?
It's
Did
not.
Dwayne Wade play in the bubble?
I don't. I think he was gone. I think he was gone before that. I believe. I think he was probably
Oh, he
retired
retired
well
in
before that.
2019. I guess you can't have
All
Dwayne
right,
Wade.
so
He retired in 2019, Mike.
yeah, that sounds right. I don't feel like he was right there. Okay. So Carmelo Anthony was on the list that I'm looking at. Carmelo Anthony was number 1 on the list. I guess though it's going by alphabetical order, so I guess that's why he's number 1. Anyway, I guess the guy that I'm going to go with based on the list that I see in terms of being productive, I'm going to go with my guy Dwight Howard.
Oh, yes.
Because I feel like Dwight's got to still be in good shape. Feels like he could still help a team in 12 to 15 minutes off the bench. I think he might. Is he still playing in China? I know for a while he was still.
He was
I
last
know he
year.
was playing in China.
I know
I
he's
know he
doing
was
some
still playing.
He's judging in some kind of dunk competitions with Shaq. I saw a video. He's been doing some Shaq and him judging people in dunk contests. So I don't know. But
Okay,
yeah,
well there you go.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
I feel like Dwight Howard, good choice because he's probably still in great shape. A guy with a body like he had during his career, I feel like he's going to still be in good shape. He can still play 12 to 15 minutes off the bench. Maybe he's mellowed and matured. He's eating a little less candy. Maybe he's not quite as annoying, doesn't fart as much as he used to. And as a result of that, maybe he'll be able to help my team a little bit moving forward. So I'm going to go with Dwight Howard. I will say that the pickings are pretty slim if you're really looking for a good player, at least who's retired in the last 4 years. I would say the only other guy on the list that I have in front of me that you could even really consider that had any kind of a career. Well, I guess there's a couple.
What about
I guess.
JJ Redick? Is JJ Redick on this list?
JJ Redick is not on this list. I have LaMarcus Aldridge is on this list, so that's not a bad choice. Then I would say the next guy, probably in terms of production, you got Thad Young.
Okay, well, JJ Redick retired in 2021, Mike. Do you want? Can I give you some JJ Redick?
I'll still take Dwight Howard. Redick's a coach now. Bojan Bogdanovic, Danny Green, Rudy Gay. I mean,
forever linked.
I think
Forever linked to Cavs trade rumors.
that's true. That is true. No question about that. So yeah, give me Dwight Howard. I was trying to figure out if he's still active. If I look at his Wikipedia page, I believe. Let me see here if it states that he's still playing career. It looks like he is done because the last team it looks like he played for was the Taiwan Leopards in 2022, 2023. So it appears that Dwight Howard is retired at this point.
Got it. All right. What's your question, Mike? Give it to me.
Okay. So again, I went with a yes or no question. So my question is either the New York Knicks or the Cleveland Cavaliers will win the Eastern Conference this season. And I don't mean the regular season. I mean make the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference. Either the Knicks or the Cavs will win the Eastern Conference. Yes, no, or maybe.
Well, I mean, I feel like maybe is a cop-out answer, Mike. I feel like, I mean, anything could be a maybe.
Yeah, anything could be
case.
a maybe. But I think in this case, you probably have to make a choice.
All right. Here's what I'm going to go with. I still have a hard time envisioning. So, let's just talk about the Eastern Conference. I have a hard time. I know Detroit's in first right now, and they're playing well. And we play them soon, so I think that'll give us a better, let's see how they stack up when they play us. Even if we play terribly, I just want to see it. I have a hard time envisioning Detroit going to the NBA Finals right now. I just can't wrap my head around it. JB Bickerstaff's the coach, and they don't have any. I don't know. So I have a hard time with them. Milwaukee's obviously in the tank. The Raptors are falling apart. The 76ers, I don't have any faith in the 76ers. I mean, I just don't. Let's see, who else am I missing? Celtics. I mean, I guess that's the caveat. The Celtics are playing so well right now that they're not going to try to trade anyone away. So all our discussions at the beginning of the season, I just don't think they're going to trade anyone away because if there's any chance Jason Tatum is going to come back, okay, I don't know. Or in Orlando, I don't know if Orlando has the guy to lead them to the finals. I just don't. So I'm going to hesitantly still say yes that one of those two teams is going to be the Eastern Conference representative. But I'm going to just put the caveat there is if it's not those two teams, I think it's Boston. Assuming Tatum's back. If Tatum doesn't come back, no way. But if Tatum comes back and is functional, even if he's playing 15 to 20 minutes a night, I think it's Boston. If it's not those two teams.
I think the key to this question is what you just did in that exercise is going through all of the other teams and trying to figure out which team is it believable that could win 3 playoff series to get to the NBA Finals. And as you said, I don't think that. I mean, okay, Bucks no, Raptors no, Sixers no, Atlanta no, Miami no, Orlando. Franz is out 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain, which I know that I don't know if you saw his fall. It looked like it potentially could have been much worse than that. So I'm sure Orlando's happy, but they're just getting Paolo back, and now Franz is out. Again, they won tonight against the Heat, and Desmond Bane tossed in 37. It looks like he's finally coming around. And so I think a healthy Magic team if I was going to pick any of these teams to potentially break through, I think Orlando and Detroit would be the two. I still think Boston, push comes to shove, they're just, I think their depth in the playoffs, I think could be exposed. If Tatum comes back, he's going to be at maybe 75%. And as good as Jaylen Brown has been, and as good as Peyton Pritchard has been, and Quaid has been rebounding the heck of the ball out of the ball from the center position for them, I still think the fact that you don't have Drew Holiday, you don't have Porzingis, I guess they're the only team really in the Eastern Conference that has any kind of experience of real playoff championship medal. Nobody on any of these other teams in the East really has ever experienced winning a championship. I mean, there's really nobody, I guess, except for Giannis, who's won a title on any of these Eastern Conference teams. So Boston clearly is the most experienced when it comes to that. But I just don't, I think that the guys that they're playing, it's fine in the regular season. I just don't know that that translates into playoff basketball. Cueto, what's he going to look like in the playoffs? You've got Sam Hauser playing a lot of minutes. You've got Shireman playing minutes. You got Jordan Walsh playing minutes. All those guys, regular season basketball versus playoff basketball, I think it's something different. If I was going to look at the two teams that I think could potentially break through ahead of the Knicks or the Cavs would be the Pistons and the Magic. I think the case against the Pistons is they're young. At this point, this group's never won a playoff series. Seems hard to believe that they're going to go from pushing the Knicks in round one to a game seven to making it to the NBA Finals. And look, Cade has continued to improve, and Duran has obviously taken a leap. And I chronicled it before, just the physicality of Detroit scares me as far as a matchup with the Cavs. And I know last time we talked about it, you pointed out that the Cavs had killed the Pistons in the one matchup that they had this year. And I do think that Detroit is young, but I do think Detroit has the type of physical type of team that gives the Cavs problems. And then Orlando, I think if they're healthy and they can figure it out, for them, it seems like the key will be what do you get from Suggs? I think the other guys, and again, don't get me wrong, I don't think they can get to the finals if any of their big four guys are not healthy. But it seems like when you look at their data on and off numbers with Jalen Suggs, that he seems to be the key guy. When he's around, it seems like the team just, for whatever reason, plays better. What he brings on the defensive end of the floor, what he brings in terms of just his intensity and leadership. He seems like a key piece of what they're trying to do. And like I said, Bane is starting to come around, and now they're going to be without Franz, and they were without Paolo for a while. So who knows when they really start to come together and gel. But I think their top end talent would lead me to believe that I would probably push them even ahead of the Pistons, despite where they are in the standings. I would look at Orlando as being maybe even a bigger threat than Detroit. And then if you look at the two teams that I posed the question about, the Knicks, I still think that the Karl Anthony Towns piece, if I was a Knicks fan, I still wouldn't trust it. I don't trust Mitchell Robinson's health. And just like the Cavs with Mitchell and Garland, having Jalen Brunson at 5'11 being your best player and your go-to scorer over 3 rounds or 4 rounds the playoffs, I just think little guys just get beat up and they get worn down, and it's just easier to scheme and game plan against them. And so that's my case against the Knicks. I do think the Knicks have an advantage in physicality and maybe mental toughness with the Cavs. With the Cavs, I don't worry about their talent. Obviously, right now, the biggest concern for the Cavs is just getting healthy. But I laid it out last week that the mental toughness and the physical toughness for the Cavs is something that has me really concerned. And I'm starting to hear more and more of that from national podcasters. Tim Legler talked a little bit about that with Zach Lowe on his pod. I don't know if you listened to that, but they talked a little bit about just that things look off and that this team just isn't.
Oh, he's gone.
I was rolling, man.
All right, you're back. All right, Mike. I heard you say Tim Legler, and then you were gone.
Okay. All right. So I'll pick up from Tim. I'll pick up from Tim Legler, and we'll see what happens from here. So I don't know if you
Well,
listened.
I'm glad to know it's
by
not
the
my
way,
internet, Mike. I'm glad to know.
No, this is just this is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Like I don't even know what to do with it anymore. It's so bad. Like I can't. I mean, it's terrible. Anyway, so I don't know if you listened at all to the Zach Lowe podcast with Tim Legler, but he basically said the same thing about the Cavs, that the mental and physical toughness and just things don't look right with this team at this point. And clearly they have to get healthy, but I'm not worried about their talent, but I do worry about the mental and physical toughness, especially when it comes to the playoffs. And it's not like that's a theme that we haven't talked about before. That's something that we've been discussing probably since that first playoff series 3 years ago, where the Knicks just kind of pounded them on the offensive glass, and Jared Allen had the lights were brighter than expected quote. And it just, since then, they just haven't really performed to the level that you would expect as a playoff team. And so I have concerns about the Cavs. I have concerns about the Knicks, but yet I don't really see any of the contenders that are behind them as being slam dunks to, hey, these teams are clearly better than the Knicks or the Cavs. So I would expect that one of the Knicks or the Cavaliers are going to get to the NBA Finals. One of them will have things going at the right time in the playoffs and get themselves playing at the level that they're supposed to be playing at, or that they're capable of playing at.
I mean,
and I just don't know that any of those other teams can. I just don't know that any of those other teams can get there. I think the ceiling for all those other teams is lower than the ceiling for the Cavs or the Knicks. And I guess if you ask me to bet on one of those teams, I probably would take the field. But if you give me both of them, I think I would still probably take the Knicks and Cavs. So,
okay.
All right, let's move to
All
your
right.
second question.
My second question is yes or no. I'm not even going to give you a maybe on this question. You can't answer it with a maybe.
Okay.
When the trade deadline passes, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a Milwaukee Buck.
I think the answer is yes. I think he's a Milwaukee Buck. And I think the reason why he's a Milwaukee Buck is twofold. One, I think that when you look around, and we did the fake Giannis trades and speculation, and I just don't know that there is a ready-made contender that fits perfectly with the Giannis timeline and where he's going to push a team over the top, where they clearly become a threat to win the NBA title. That's not to say that if he got traded to some of the more likely destinations that we've heard, like San Antonio or Houston, that he wouldn't make those teams better. Clearly, he would make those teams better. But when I look at what those deals would have to look like, I start to get dubious pretty quickly. And we touched on it last week that if I'm a team that's trading for Giannis at this point, I have to be at least mildly concerned with his recent history of lower leg injuries and his ability to stay on the floor, both in the regular season and then more importantly in the playoffs. And if I look at, let's take those two, because I think, I guess you could say the Knicks, but I don't think that, I mean, I don't think Milwaukee wants to trade with the New York Knicks. Maybe if Giannis says that's the only place he wants to go, then you have to figure out something. But if I'm Milwaukee, am I going to be happy getting back Karl Anthony Towns, Bridges, or Anunoby, and some middling Knicks draft picks? That doesn't
What about
seem
Evan
like.
Mobley?
It's a great question. I heard it raised. I forget who talked about that.
Lowe talked about it. Lowe talked
You're
about
right.
it.
You're right. So I mean, you and I obviously have discussed Evan Mobley a lot. I would still say that theoretical Evan Mobley is still my favorite player on the Cavs. When I watch a game, I always am rooting especially hard for him to do well just because I think it's been made clear numerous times how important I think he is to the franchise. If you were to take and trade Evan Mobley for Giannis, and I don't know what else the Cavs would have to do, and it would probably have to be a multiple team trade and with the second apron and all that stuff. But if you just say it's going to be Evan Mobley for Giannis, and then there's going to be some bits and pieces to make the salaries fit, and the Cavs are going to have to trade some draft equity. In essence, what you're saying is take Evan Mobley off the Cavaliers and plug Giannis Antetokounmpo into that spot. I don't think there's any question that the Cavs would be a better team. Do you have a question about that?
Oh no, I agree.
So
I don't have a question about that.
yeah, I don't either. And so then it becomes, does he make them that much better that they are now a legitimate threat to not only win the Eastern Conference, but could that team potentially beat the Thunder? And what I like about the trade is that it injects some of the things that we just talked about that the Cavs are lacking. I think it injects physical toughness and physicality. It injects mental toughness, and it injects a lot of the pieces that this team needs. A bigger guy that can be a go-to scorer. And I know Giannis struggles to play and shoot and score from out on the perimeter, but the reality is he doesn't have to. Nobody scores in the paint more efficiently than he does. And so the combination of Giannis's ability to score on the interior plus his ability to handle the ball against anyone at his size, which is something that Mobley cannot do at this point in his career, just adds a completely new dimension to the Cavs offense. Now you're back to some spacing challenges with Jared Allen and Giannis because Mobley has shown the ability over the last year and a half to step out on the floor and at least make some standstill threes at times. He's at least a threat. Giannis is really at this point no longer a threat outside the 3-point line. So you do have some spacing issues, but clearly Giannis makes the Cavs better if that trade were to happen. So I guess if you want to ask me that next question of would I do that trade? Yes, no, or maybe. I think the answer is to that question is yes. I just don't know how feasible or realistic that is in terms of the apron, in terms of what the Cavs would give up in addition to Mobley in order to get Giannis. It's certainly an interesting trade. It would be one that you could debate back and forth many times over, and you would never know who won the trade until 10 years from now when you see what Evan Mobley's career turns into and you see whether or not the Cavs were able to win a title with Giannis. But going back to the original question of do I think Giannis is going to be a buck? I think he's going to be a buck because I just don't know that either the trades are very, very difficult to pull off because of, in the Cavs case, they're up against the second apron and there's just things related to the salary cap with a lot of teams. And then the other piece of it, when I think about Houston or I think about San Antonio and I think about kind of the young core of each of those teams, right? So in Houston, you got Amen Thompson and Şengün and Reed Shepherd and Tari Eason. Those are kind of your main Jabari. You got five young guys that could potentially be together for a long time that make a lot of sense together positionally. I know they have Durant, who is clearly on a different timeline, but the core of that Houston team, that team could contend for titles if you keep them together. They're going to be a good team for a long time. And San Antonio, you got Wemby, who's what, 22 years old, 23 years old, whatever he is. And then you got Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. So you've got those three guys. And then De'Aaron Fox is maybe 27, 28. And they have a long runway too. And if you end up trading for Giannis, if you're Houston, you're going to end up giving up everything that I read, heard, seen, and what would only make sense for Milwaukee is you'd want to get Şengün or Amen Thompson. So you're giving up one of your 2 best young players. And then conversely with San Antonio, you're going to give up either Castle or Dylan Harper, two guys who are, I don't know what level they're going to reach, but they're going to both be very, very good NBA players, probably all-star players at some point in their careers. And so do you want to sacrifice what potentially could be years of contention for a shorter window with a guy who has been injured a lot in recent years? And if I was a team looking to trade for Giannis, and if he was an Iron Man who played 75 to 80 games every season and didn't miss time in the playoffs, I'd be a lot more inclined to go for one of those trades. But as it stands now, with his injury history and getting nicked up and dinged up at the wrong time, I'm not sure I would accelerate it, because I don't know if, especially if I'm in the West, right? Like, it's one thing if you're the Cavs, you can get to the finals and then maybe something weird happens. You got to beat Oklahoma City. In the West, you got to beat Oklahoma City to even get to the finals. And as good as they're playing, I don't know how I don't know how good of a bet that is, that even if you put Giannis on Houston or you put Giannis on San Antonio, or I don't, put him anywhere you want, the juggernaut that is the Thunder this year, it still feels like you're going to come up short unless there's some kind of serious injury to Shea. Otherwise, I think they can absorb just about anything in terms of shaking up their roster from injury, or again, whatever they want to do. So I think Milwaukee is going to end up keeping Giannis, and not necessarily because they want to, or not necessarily because he doesn't want to leave. I just don't know how big, sounds crazy to say, but I don't know how big the market is for those two reasons. One, because just the mechanics of making a trade in this apron era are tough for teams. And then two, the teams where he would be a good fit, where it would make sense, those teams, I don't know how much they want to give up of their young cores. So I'm going to say yes, he will be a Milwaukee Buck come the trade deadline.
All right. Your turn.
Okay, my next question. My question for you, or my statement, I guess. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win this year's NBA MVP award.
I mean, I don't want him to win.
Well, what you want, what you get is two different things.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna say, Mike. I'm gonna ask you my third question, and we can lace them together.
Okay.
Okay, because these go hand in hand. My third question: the Oklahoma City Thunder will win 74 games this season. Okay. So these go hand in hand. Okay.
They do. Why don't you? You want me to answer? How about if I answer your question first?
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. My answer to the question is, if Oklahoma City wins 65, 68 plus games, which they're currently on pace to do that without even batting an eye. Okay. There's no way he doesn't win the MVP. His streak of 20 points game, right? He's at, I don't even know what he's at now. Like over 100. He was at 90, somewhere in the 90s the last time I saw. And it hasn't been broken to the best of my knowledge. Okay. The way they're playing, I just can't imagine them giving to someone else. Even if Jokic is averaging here's the question. What does Jokic what kind of triple double does Jokic have to average to win the MVP if they win 68 games? I don't know. It's got to be a crazy. He almost has to answer if he averaged a quadruple double, he could win the MVP. I don't even know. I just think that it's SGA, and it's SGA's, game to lose at this point, honestly, because I think we look back and we talk about how there are teams that might not play for the record, the NBA record of wins, and at some point they have to regress and have a rough stretch. I think Simmons talked about this on his podcast. I just don't think that these guys are going to care about not winning, and they're going to want to win, and they're just that good that they're going to keep winning, and they're that young that they're going to keep winning. And it's not like they have to sit here and rest these guys. And maybe we get to the stretch of the end of the season, and they've clinched the number 1 seed, and we're still at 3 weeks left in the season at the current rate, or 2 weeks left in the season at the current rate. And maybe they will sit some guys, but I think if it's there, they're going to go for it. So I just don't see, if there's no chance to get there, say there's 4 games left and they're sitting at, 66 wins, then maybe you sit the guys. Okay. Or if there's, but I just think, I don't think there's any world, as much as I want Jokic to win, or like even Luka, who I think I picked Luka, right? In the preseason, I picked Luka to win the MVP just because I wanted to do it, because LeBron, which, by the way, Luka's having an insane season, and he's probably right now, what, 4th or 5th? Like, honestly, like maybe 3rd. Third.
At best, he's a distant third. At best, he's a distant third.
Because it's Shea, Jokic, then Luka. Giannis would have been in the conversation, but they've completely tanked. So I'm out on that, and the whole drama stuff. That's a discount for me. But if he brings his drama stuff to Cleveland, then I'm all for it. So I think Shea wins it. I'll let you answer the 74 win question, and then I will offer my opinion.
All right. So I think I kind of don't think they're going to get to 74. I think 74 is, I mean, that's an absurd. You're talking they're going to be 74-8. That is an absolutely absurd record. Now, I know the Warriors were 73-9. I know the Bulls were 72-10. I know it's possible. I know they're sitting at whatever 22-1 or 23-1, whatever
23-1.
But it just feels like at some point that you have to hit a rough spell.
They are currently on pace for 79 wins, Mike.
Yeah,
they're currently on pace for 79 wins. I did some math.
Okay, I don't think they're getting 7. I feel very, very confident they're not going to get 79. But I think what we know about the NBA in terms of just being a fan and watching this league for a long time is just when you think you have something completely figured out, something inevitably changes. And maybe that something is an injury. Maybe that something is an East Coast road trip. Maybe that something is something internally that changes or goes wrong or goes haywire.
Can we play a game real quick, Mike? Can we play a game really quick?
Sure.
When do the Thunder lose next?
Okay. All right. You run through it.
Okay.
I'm not going to switch off. I'm not going to switch off to my screen because it's going to disappear and we're going to lose connection.
Okay. So here we go. Now
so
we have to understand that they're going to probably be in the NBA Cup championship game. Just putting it out there. So we don't know their schedule. Okay, so they play the Suns tomorrow night. That's a win. They're not going to lose to the Suns tomorrow night. Not happening. Okay, so then they're going to play the winner of the Lakers. Who are the Lakers playing against? I don't even know. This is how much I care about the NBA Cup. The Lakers are playing. They're going to play the Lakers because the Lakers are going to win that game. That's my prediction, right? Is it Lakers Nuggets? Are the Nuggets in?
No, the Nuggets are not
in the NBA Cup.
No.
Well, I'm getting there, Mike. I know. I don't want you to have to switch off because I don't want.
No,
I don't want your.
I'll pull out the. I'll pull out the phone.
Spurs Lakers. It's Spurs Lakers. The Lakers are going to win that game because no Wembanyama. So the Lakers are going to win that game. So then the Thunder. Let's just say theoretically they're playing the. I think we would both agree that if they're playing the Spurs or the Lakers, the Thunder are winning that game, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then you're left with the Thunder are going to play the championship game against the Knicks and the Magic, which, by the way, that game does not count for the record. That does not count for the record, Mike. So if they lose that game, it doesn't even matter. So we're not even going to count that game. Okay? Is that fair? That's fair, right? That's the way, because that game, fair. If they get to the championship game, if they lose that game, it doesn't matter because it's not going to count against them. Then they play the Clippers. They're not losing to the Clippers. Then they play the Timberwolves. Are the Timberwolves intimidating the Thunder at this point? No. Then they're playing the Grizzlies. That's not ever going to happen. Then they're playing the Spurs 2 games in a row. I don't know. Is Wembanyama back? And then we're playing the 76ers. Then we're playing the Hawks. Then we're playing the Trailblazers. Then we're playing the Warriors. I think, I'm just looking at this, Mike. The next game that I would consider them a possible loss is January 15th when they play the Rockets.
Take it one step further. When's the next time they're not going to be favored in a game that they play? When will be the next time that they're not favored?
They're not. That's not going to happen. It's going to be the whole season. Like who's picking? Who's not favoring them? I mean,
the only game that they could potentially not be favored would be at right now as the standings sit today. You could say on the East, if they go East, right, and maybe if the Cavaliers or Knicks sort of right the ship. I don't know when we play the Thunder or when the Knicks play the Thunder.
Martin Luther King Day, baby, 2:30 home game. Martin Luther King Day home game, 2:30 p.m.
Okay, so the Thunder will be on the road there. They will have played the Rockets, then the Heat, then the Cavs, and then the Bucks. So they have a 4-game road trip. That Cavs game is in the middle. I still think the Thunder will probably be favored in that because the Cavs won't have righted the ship enough by then to be some kind of overwhelming favorite. I would say the only game potentially where they would be an underdog would be at Denver. And even then, I would anticipate that they would probably be the favorite. So all that being said, teams lose as the favorite all the time. And I'm going to say no to your question of will they win 74 games? I think they're going to win 70. I don't know if the exact number is going to be 70. I think getting to 74 is going to be a lot to ask to get to 74. I just feel like the NBA, the grind, the travel, the schedule, the this, the that. I just think that at some point that they're going to have a tough stretch of 2 weeks. Maybe they have 4 games in 5 nights or 4 games in 6 nights, and they're on the road and they just get caught. But man, there's been nothing really in what we've seen from them this season that would indicate that what I'm saying is at all true. Even the game they lost to Portland, they had a 20-point lead in the second half. And so it's hard to argue against them getting to 74, but I just think the grind of the NBA season and what seems like something that's automatic oftentimes very quickly turns on a dime and becomes not nearly as automatic as we think. So I'm going to say that they are not going to win 74. And then I guess if we go with the next phase of the question that I asked you, will Shea win the MVP or Shea will be the MVP? What's your answer? What do you say there? So I guess we're asking what's your answer in terms of if the Thunder get to 70, Shea's winning the MVP if he continues at the same or even a slightly lesser pace than what he is now. I don't see how you could deny him the MVP if the Thunder get to at least 70. And if they get to 74, it might be unanimous no matter what kind of season Jokic puts up. But we can talk about the 2-player statistics in a second, but just give me your take on Thunder 74.
I don't think they're going to get that there either. I was just really just trying to review on a little bit. I think they're going to get to the Jordan number. 72. That's what I'm going with. 72 and 10. That's where I'm going. Okay. I think that's where they'll end up.
Gotcha. right.
But
It's fair.
yeah.
So then can I just read again? I know we've done this, I think every NBA podcast, we've just read the statistics, but the statistics are so absurd for these two guys that it almost doesn't seem real when you read them. So here's Shay's just again, these are the basic counting stats. This doesn't take into account anything in terms of on off or advanced metrics, but just the pure counting stats. Shay, 32.8 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 6.4 assists. As a guard, mind you, he's shooting 55% from the floor. He's shooting 44% from three as a guy who's not really known as a three-point shooter, and his attempts are definitely up this year. I think he's averaging like over 5 attempts per game, and he's shooting 88% from the line, and he's got to be first or second in the league in terms of just free throws shot per game. So that's Shea. You're talking about that statistical line is it's insane, especially when you figure that when you combine that in with the team's record and the fact that he's sat out like half the fourth quarters that his team has played. So if you want to add and if you do the per 48 minutes, I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks even more absurd if you go per 48 minutes. Jokic, 29.2 points per game, 12.3 rebounds, 11 assists per game. Jokic is shooting 61% from the floor. He's shooting 41% from three, and he's shooting 85% from the line. So he's basically averaging a 30, 12, and 11 triple double while shooting 61% from the floor and 41% from three as your center. It's just the statistics from both of these guys are just ridiculous. And they were ridiculous last year, and you were splitting hairs trying to make a decision. This year, you're splitting hairs as well. And this doesn't even throw into account, as you said, the kind of season. If we want to look at Luka's statistics, they're just as crazy. And Giannis is probably going to miss too much time to even be eligible for the MVP. But if you just stack up his statistics against these guys, he's right there in terms of the absurdity of what he's doing. So it's really, really hard. You can argue a case for any of these guys. It's really, really difficult to argue against any one of them. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to that if the Thunder have an historic season where they finish with 70 or more wins and Shea has this kind of statistical line, I just don't see how anybody can vote for any one of the other candidates, not because they aren't deserving MVPs and all these stat lines are MVP type seasons, but the wins and the quality of Oklahoma City's team just overwhelms whatever any of these other teams can do. Now, granted, Denver's 17-6. Maybe if Denver wins 65 games somehow, maybe Jokic will get votes. If Denver ends with 60 plus wins, Jokic will get votes. But if Oklahoma City gets to 70, there's no way Shea's not winning the MVP. It's just I just don't see how it's even possible.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. All right, your last question, Mike.
Okay, my last question is the Oklahoma City Thunder, sticking with the theme of tonight's podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder will receive a top 5 pick from the Los Angeles Clippers as a result of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George transaction. Yes, no, maybe.
I mean, it's looking like it's a possibility, right? I mean, for sure. It's not a foregone conclusion. They're not going to have the best odds to get it, but it would be pretty. I'll just say this: if they get a top 5 pick in the NBA, it's not good. It's not good news for the NBA. So I'm going to say no, and here's why. Because I know the NBA likes parity, And I know the NBA doesn't rig drafts, and I don't know that NBA doesn't do these things. I think the last thing the NBA wants is for the Oklahoma City Thunder to have a top 5 pick. It's not a big market team. They are 20. Listen, they are 23-1. We've spent most of our time talking about the podcast. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I go on ESPN, the front page is never, very rarely is it Oklahoma City Thunder. The NBA page, it's LeBron, it's Luka, it's Giannis trade drama, it's this, it's that. Oklahoma City is a small market team. The NBA does not want them to have a top pick. So I'm going to, and listen, maybe they do want Oklahoma City to come up with the top pick, because then maybe people will actually believe that the NBA draft lottery is not rigged. Okay? Because then they'll be like, well, there's no way the NBA would want this to happen. I don't know. But I think the bottom line is this. I think as abysmal as the Clippers have been, I think they're going to win some games, and they're not going to end up in the bottom. You know, we're talking about the Pelicans are terrible. We're talking about the Wizards. We're talking about the Nets. I know I'm forgetting someone. We're talking about the Pacers. We're talking about in the West. I say the Jazz.
The Jazz, Sacramento.
All these teams, the Jazz are Sacramento. All these teams, the Hornets are bad. I think the Clippers are going to be above them. I think there's going to be enough teams that are going to be below them in the standings that they are not going to end up a top 5 pick. Now, do I think they're going to end up with a lottery pick? Heck yeah, they're going to end up with a lottery pick. And, you know, what's interesting about the lottery pick situation is they have so many other picks. Could they take something in the lottery? Could they take that lottery pick and package it with other picks and somehow end up higher? That's a possibility. I think that would be more my fear, is they take their lottery pick, like say they get the 10th pick, okay? They get the 10th pick, and they take that 10th pick and they package it with like 2 or 3 future picks or 2 or 3 other picks that they've got stashed away and to move up, then that's something they could legitimately do. So I think that's where, if they get the top 5 pick, that's where it's going to end up. I don't think that the Clippers are going to be bad enough. They're bad, but I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get the Thunder a top 5 pick.
Okay, so right now, currently, as it sits, the Clippers are tied for the 3rd worst record. Now, granted, they are tied with the Sacramento Kings, the Indiana Pacers, and the Brooklyn Nets, all who have 6 wins. So you're looking at, that's what, 3 to potentially spot 5, right? So, but here's the thing with the Clippers that has me concerned that they could potentially end up turning over what could be a top 3, top 5 pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder in this crazy draft that is going to theoretically, again, produce a number of guys that people think can be franchise players. I feel like the Clippers are an injury away from just being completely and utterly abysmal. And I know that part of the advantage that the Clippers have in terms of not giving their pick to Oklahoma City is the fact that they don't have any incentive to tank because they don't have their own pick. So they're not going to be intentionally losing games. But if you look at their roster and you're trying to figure out what could potentially happen if, let's just say, for the sake of argument, and I know James Harden has been extremely durable in his career, and Harden is having an amazing season for a guy who is, I believe he's 36 or is he 37? James Harden is currently 36 years old. He's averaging 27 a game with 8.5 rebounds. He's not shooting the ball as well as he did in previous seasons in some of his best years. He's only shooting 44% from the floor, and he's still shooting 36% from 3 on almost 10 attempts per game. Harden's playing 35 minutes a game right now as a 36-year-old who has the ball in his hands an awful lot. Basically, everything the Clippers do runs through James Harden. And if there were to be a James Harden injury or he were to miss any kind of significant time, I just don't know what happens to the Clippers at that point. You're looking at probably Chris Dunn taking over at point guard, or maybe they're having to go to the scrap heap and find somebody. We went over the Chris Paul scenario, and not that Chris Paul necessarily would have been the answer to that question. But I think the Clippers are, one, old to begin with, two, already teetering on the brink of, at what point does this kind of veteran team, when they're clearly out of it halfway through the season, what kind of effort are you getting out of these guys? I don't know. And if there is any kind of injury to James Harden for any length of time, I just don't see how this team possibly survives. And the only hope is, as you said, that there's a lot of really bad teams and there's a lot of teams that are incentivized to lose games, and the Clippers are not. And so those two things, I think, would lead you to believe that the Clippers are not going to finish with one of the worst 3 records in the league. But I think the Clippers are on a pretty slippery slope in terms of just the makeup of their team and the fact that they're an injury or two away from just completely going to the tank. I even think if Zubats went down, you lose Zubats or you lose Harden. And I think this team very, very quickly becomes a bottom of the barrel team that could potentially be in the top 3 in terms of the odds for the lottery. If you would have asked me this question, I think I probably would have said yes, that I think they're going to end up giving Oklahoma City a top 5 pick, which is insane that 15 minutes ago we were debating whether or not the team could win 70 plus games. And now we're talking about the fact that they could have potentially a top 5 pick in a draft that could have numerous guys that, at least on paper, coming out of college and into the draft, could be players that team executives and experts think could be franchise players moving forward. And I mean, if you add one of those guys to Oklahoma City, it just kind of resets the clock on their depth, right? Because eventually what Oklahoma City is probably going to run into is that some of their guys that are not fringe players, but you're talking about the Lou Dorts, the Hartensteins, the Kason Wallaces, the guys who are your secondary players who aren't going to be max guys. Can you eventually afford those? Well, if you can replace one of those guys with a franchise type player who's going to be on a 4-year rookie deal, and maybe you don't need that guy to be the man, right? You have 3 guys ahead of them in the pecking order, and a potential franchise player can be your 4th best player as a 21-year-old. I'd say that's a pretty good formula for working a guy into a rotation and being able to continue to build the roster. That seems like a very Sam Presti-esque type of situation. So I agree with your sentiment that the NBA draft sometimes works in mysterious ways. And I agree that I don't think the league wants necessarily a dynasty to come to fruition in Oklahoma City. I don't think that if the league had its ways and its dreams, that that's where they would like to place a dynasty. But I don't know, man. I just there's a lot of things that with this whole Clippers stuff that in some ways maybe the league wants to, maybe they can't stick it to the Clippers in one way and they can stick it to the Clippers in another way. So it'll be interesting to watch. It will be a very interesting draft lottery next year, especially as we get more clarity as we go through the season on which of these prospects, whether it's DeBansta or Peterson or Boozer or Caleb Wilson from North Carolina, where these guys end up ultimately falling in terms of what guys think of them as they head into the league. And again, those opinions in terms of whether or not those types of players are franchise guys frequently swings, right? You hear, oh, this draft is going to have 4 or 5 franchise guys. And then by the time the draft gets here, you're down to 1 or 0. And guys who are going to be very, very good, but maybe not the type of franchise altering players that people thought they might have been coming out of high school. So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays itself out. But I think there's a huge chance that the Clippers end up giving a top 5 pick to Oklahoma City, which, as you said, the rest of the league and the league itself probably isn't going to be too excited about that.
Yep. All right, Mike, anything else tonight?
No, I think we covered, we had 6 pretty interesting questions. Took us around to a lot of the teams in the league. I guess we focused more on the top of the league until we got to the Clippers. But yeah, I think we covered a bunch of things. And I'll answer your NBA Cup question that you asked at the beginning that we talked about. Am I interested in the NBA Cup? I'm mildly interested in it. The fact that the Cavs haven't made it to the quarterfinals in any of the years of this thing, I guess, has continued to make me less interested in it. And this year, again, the Cavs got the schedule bonus that we talked about off the top. So I'll be paying attention to it, but I don't know that I don't know how much it excites me in terms of wanting me to watch these games any more than I would watch any other regular season game. I guess probably it creates a 10 or 15% boost in my desire to watch a particular NBA Cup game, especially probably the final. I'll be more likely to watch than I would be a regular season game between whatever 2 teams end up making it. But it's still, I think the fact of the Cavs not being participants in the actual tournament part of it has taken away from my interest over the course of time. So who knows? I'm sure I'll watch the final game and maybe even some of the games leading up to it, but it is what it is. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the league, if the league qualifies it as a success or not yet. Kind of where they stand. It'll be interesting to pick Adam Silver's brain or somebody from the NBA league office as to what they think the success level of it has been. It's certainly something that people recognize now, right? You know, to look for the courts. I know when the nights are that they're going to have the cup games. As I'm paying attention to the schedule, I understand the format. So from that standpoint, I guess I'm getting used to it. I still don't know how much interest it drives necessarily in me or anyone else other than the fans of the particular teams who are involved in it. So
All right. It sounds good. I honestly will probably watch the championship game. That's about it. I really have no interest whatsoever, unless there's nothing else on TV. I guess is my caveat.
yeah, there you go. All right, there you go.
All
Unless the
right.
unless the
We're good.
Cleveland Browns press conference where they are getting rid of Kevin Stefanski comes on, then you might watch that instead, huh?
Yeah, they're not firing him, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
We don't need to talk about the
Is
Browns.
what
I
it
don't want to
is.
talk about the Browns, Mike. I don't want.
Okay. All right.
I
Let's
don't want
not
to talk
do
about.
it. All right. We'll leave it there. All right. To everyone out there, thanks for listening to this NBA episode of the Hoopheads Pod, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.